New Year, everybody. It might be well into the new year after this video goes out. Apparently it's 3 to 4 days into the new year is your allotted time to say Happy New Year, so I miserably failed in that. I do apologize. Anyhow, this is the first video of 2022. I've retreated to the garage. It's winter, right around the pond. Everything is wet and soaking. You can see the bamboos. They're green, but they're wet. Things are dying. Leaves are on the floor. It's quite cold and damp and miserable. But koi keeping continues. Recently, the Rasta group, along with myself and a few others, made our way over to Kitsu Koi. I think it was on the 28th, I think it was, of December. Where we looked at a few fish. Guys joined us from all different parts of the country. We spent a day at Kitsu Koi. Thank you to Chris and Graham who hosted us, fed us well. We were able to have a good time and have a koi day out in this COVID world that we live in. So that was great. We saw a number of fish, a few fish sold to customers, and people picked up koi food and what have you. And Kitsu Koi is a great place to visit. If you're in the Midlands area, I encourage you to go up and visit them as well. They're about an hour from where I live. It's certainly a good day out. And you've probably seen videos of me up there with Chris and Graham recently. So it's 2022. My pond has been doing well. I think last year, which I might mistakenly say this year, the pond has performed really well. A number of the fish have come into the 80 centimeter mark. The Tancho Kahaku is 80 centimeter, for example. A lot of you know that from the show. And yeah, it's one or two have, two has passed the 92 centimeter mark. One has just hit the 90 centimeter mark. So the fish are doing really well. You know, with winter feeding, you've got to be careful. I have my own plan and regime, and if you want to ask me about any of that things, feel free to do. If you see me at a koi show or koi shop anywhere, I visit a few of them. You could have a chat to me about it. I don't necessarily like putting all the information out there because people tend to copy what you do, and they don't have the same pond, or indeed not even heated in that way. So my pond is heated. I'm able to keep the heat through. You could see the winter look at the pond right now. It's covered up with polycarbonate sheeting, and it's really locked down for the winter. However, inside it's a different thing. The pond is currently, we're in the first week of January I should say. The pond is sitting at 22 Celsius. Feeding a lot less now, mainly on the color food and low protein diet. Because they fed all through winter pretty well. We had a mild December, I should say. We had a mild December, so normal circumstances, the pond will be cooler in December, but it was so mild, it was worth getting an extra 2 weeks of feeding in while I can. Temperatures, I should say, in my pond in the next couple of weeks. Feed out a little bit of color food I've got left. I think I've got a bag, I'm looking at it. Yeah, I've got about a half a bag left, so I'll feed that out. Sake hikari. I only feed sake hikari food, it's what I feed. I have tried other brands, and I've recommended JPD is a good food. Takazumi, whatever your budget is, there are other good foods you could try as well. So the fish have really come on well. One fish I want to highlight in this video is a fish that I picked up, and I didn't really go there to pick up a fish. Actually, I was at Absolute Koi in Redford, and while I was there to pick up, I think, what was I there for? I think it was either koi food or, no, it couldn't be koi food, medicine, something, I can't remember. Anyhow, out my way around the ponds, and I stopped at his Tosai pond, which would have been well into June by then. This is last year, June, I should say. June, July, possibly. Maybe June, end of June. And he had in there some little, between, I would say, 15 cm or maybe 12 cm up to possibly 20 cm or 18. Mixture of Showa and Sanke and one or two single color fish, like you see at all dealers' ponds. But some of these fish that came from Sakai company, which I've been to in 2019 in my trip to Japan. So while waiting for him, I was by myself and having a look around the pond. And you're looking at small fish, and they're like what I call live bait size at this point of year, and probably too small for their age. Most breeders would have had them in a mud pond, growing them on. But one stood out to me. Subsequently, I bought two. One I picked and one Darren put in a bowl. The one that Darren put in a bowl, that didn't work out. It's with toss-eye that can happen. The one I put in a bowl actually worked out, and worked out very well. In fact, it's female. And I measured her in December. You might see some cutaway footage of this fish. Measured her in December. I said her because it turns out, did I just say it's female? Yeah, it turned out female. Measured her in December, and she was just around 52 centimeters, which is not bad for a Nisai Sakai company. Normally, you'd sort of hope 55, 58 centimeters, but 52 is not bad after picking up a fish at a tiny size in June. And it just goes to show that the hobby doesn't have to be about buying fish that is super expensive and spending lots and lots of money that you don't have to buy a fish. I get a lot of fun not only from the expensive fish that I've bought over the years, and you can see one over my shoulder there, that's a Sakai company fish, but also fish that that people have forgotten or not chose at koi shops. Another one when I was at Kitsu Koi recently. You might remember a Taniguchi Sankes that had came in earlier in the year. Graham had brought them in, and most had sold except for one or maybe two. And one of them, I love how the sumi looked, the quality of the sumi, the shine of the fish. Again, this fish is small for its age, really about 10 to 12 centimeters under its size that it should have been. However, does that fish mean does it mean it's no good because it's lacking the 10, 12 centimeter in length and girth and development? Well, I don't think so. It's in my pond. It's going to remain there. It will probably be put a little bit more size to it, and I imagine in a few years' time, it may never be a 85 centimeter fish, but I would hope to get it to 75. And I think a Sanke at 75 centimeters, Taniguchi is really, if it keeps all the qualities I have now, would be again another fantastic purchase where it was in this country. Don't automatically dismiss those koi because they are, a couple £100, £300-400 or £200 or even under that. Study the pond, study the environment they're in. I'm not one for growing fish in the dark. I've got a double garage, and I could put a pond in here, but I would never grow fish in the dark. There will be a pond in here, but it's be more for quarantine for showing and bringing fish in to the country. But in your main pond, you'll be surprised how a toss-eye could grow really well in the right environment, right temperature, right water quality, and do really well among Nisai and above, as I have done over the years. I've also got some Taniguchi that I brought over myself last year, toss-eye, and they came in Nisai shower at 56 and 58 centimeters, which is roughly about same size or slightly bigger than the farm would have produced themselves. So, you can grow toss-eye big in your main pond. It's got to be eaten. You've got to have the water quality, and you've got to feed the right amount of food. Water quality is important in keeping the koi. So, as you can see, I feed my fish a lot of food. When I fed them during the heavy feeding size, people were asking me how much food do I feed, or the quantity. I go by how much fish I have in the pond and the weight, and I tend to feed 1% of the total fish weight in the pond. So that's how I work out, and I feed, and I make sure you have to get the food into the fish. If you want them to grow, they need to be fed. And holding your pond at 18 Celsius and feeding heavy, in my opinion, is not really what you want to do. You want to do what the breeders say to me, what Mike Snaden says, get your pond up to 23, 24 Celsius, get the water right. And when you're in a heavy feeding season, you will wreck the water. The water will become, not as crystal clear as you see now in the winter, because they're in a feeding zone. And the quality of the fish may dip a bit, but that's fine. You got winter to play catch up, get the water right, and get the fish skin right again, which is what I'm doing now. So one of the things that I posted recently that I want to highlight to everybody, so make sure and check your carbon. For some reason, the water board across the country have been dumping a lot of chlorine into the main taps. Main houses. So, some of you have contacted me with fish flashing and one thing and another, and you can't find anything. And I've told people, check your pond for chlorine. Oh, no, I've just changed the carbon a month ago or so. And sure enough, they checked it and there was chlorine in the pond. Don't go by your carbon by the time you've changed it. You've got to check. You've got to get your kits out. Invest in either one of them HANA pocket thing that checks the number of chlorine in there. Or like I do, I have a Palin test. I don't know who sells them. I don't really, it's not bothered. I'm not here to promote any person. Just Google HANA. I'm sure there's some on HANA's website you could buy directly, and you could get the bits for that. But check the chlorine coming out of your pond. Make sure you get your activated carbon, your big blues, as I call them. You don't have to buy all of these new. There's a lot that sometimes come up on eBay. One of the things I've did is I bought a spare one. I've got it right next to me. And that spare one is filled and ready to roll. So basically, when the other one is spent, I just push fit connected, undo the connection, take the new one over, pushed in the new one, run it for an hour or so, and it's up and fine. And then leave the spent one by the side of the house, and in the next couple of days when it's milder and I got time, I'll get one of the boys to help me and we'll empty it, wash it out, get it dried up, and then fill that ready to go again. It's always good to have two because you have one as a backup. So it's also good to have some sodium thiosulfate on hand. You don't need to work with a measurement. You can't overdose with that. I've put in, probably 500 mils into my 6,500 gallons straight in. I just chuck it in. I don't melt it. I don't dilute it. I don't mix it. I just chuck it straight in. The fish sees it, hits the water, come have a look and go the opposite direction. I've used it for years and years. I've used it in the discus world, and trust me, if it doesn't affect the discus, it ain't going to affect your koi. So have some of that, get it ordered on Amazon. Have a number of chemical companies that would send them to your door, and they're cheap. They're about £5-6, but it can save you if you realize that you got chlorine in the pond. You could chuck a couple handfuls of those in every day until you get your activated carbon ordered. Like I said before, do like, tag, share, and subscribe. And if you could do that, let's make 2022 a better koi keeping year in Rasta Koi.